Hello. Release 2.15.1 introduced new controlled drug register functionality, and in this video, we will cover creating and setting up controlled drug registers in Salus 3 Cloud. Creating controlled drug registers is a relatively quick and easy process, but there are a couple of things to be aware of before you start. To begin with, we will head into the Stock Manager module. You need to have your controlled drugs or medicines created as products. National guidance from the Home Office recommends that you keep separate registers for each type and strength of drug, and also in each location that it is held to. So you should be creating multiple products for each strength of drug and including this information in the product name field. For example, morphine sulfate 20 milligrams in 1 milliliters. We can see here on screen, we have a product name of paracetamol. This is a really bad example of what you should not be doing, which is in contravention of the National Home Office guidance. As part of today's demo, we will go ahead and create morphine sulfate. When we are creating our products, we want to ensure that we're leaving the quantities as 0 and click Create Product. We now have our morphine sulfate product ready. We also need to have the drugs listed in each location to be able to create a controlled drug register. And the location quantity must be set at 0 for auditing purposes. If we go to view products by location and we select our storeroom, we can see that we have various products in here, but we do not have the morphine sulfate that we just created. To create the morphine sulfate within the product location, we want to use the incoming option, select our location. In this case, it's storeroom. It could be drugs cabinet or drugs bags. And then we want to select our morphine sulfate and set the quantity to 0. The product's now been received into the location. If we go back into the location, we can now see we have morphine sulfate with a 0 quantity. In reality, you are unlikely to have other items within your location if you're using a drugs cabinet or drug safe, for example. This is our demo system, so we do have a variety of other products in here. Once we have created our products, we then need to look at creating our suppliers. This is done by going to suppliers within the administration section of the Stock Manager module. You can enter your supplier name and the address of the supplier to create your suppliers. They will then appear in the top table up here. Once you have your suppliers created, if you need to change any details, you do have edit functionality. Now we have created our products. We have added our products with a 0 quantity into our location. We can then proceed to create our actual CD registers. If you have products within your locations which have a current quantity, go back into our storeroom. For example, we have paracetamol here with 16. You need to remove those products from the location to set it to 0. You do that by using the remove option. So we'll choose our storeroom. We'll choose paracetamol, removing 16. And then you can type a reason for removal, such as removing to create CD register. If we now go back to our location, we will now see that our paracetamol is set to 0. So now we're ready to create our CD register. And this is done by going to CD registers within the admin section of Stock Manager. We want to select the location that the drugs are being held or stored in. So storeroom, and then we can select our morphine sulfate as our medication and create the register. We now have a register created for morphine sulfate within the storeroom. As the Home Office guidance states, every location where you hold that medication should have its own controlled drug register, whether it's a drug safe or an ambulance or even a drugs bag. So you need to create multiple registers, and you'll need to add that medication into each location as we've previously done to be able to select it from the drop-down list. Once you've completed this process, your controlled drug register is now completed and ready to be used. You can access that by visiting the CD Registers option from the left-hand menu bar. You will now see a list of all the registers you created, and clicking on a register will take you into it. Here is when you can start to populate. You have a variety of buttons at the bottom. New supply is when you have received a supply of medication and you want to record that. You can record the date and time you received it. You can select your supplier that you received it from, the quantity that you received, the expiry date, and a batch number. We can now see the date and time that we entered, the person entering the record, the supply name and address, the quantity supplied, and our running balance. The view button just allows you to view any other additional information as well for audit entries. This will also update your location stock. So if we go back to products, we go back to view our location, we look at our storeroom, you can now see we have 25 morphine sulfates. We go back to our CD register. We have some other functions we can do. If we administered medication to a patient, we can click New Patient. We can enter in a patient name or a PRF number, or both, depending on what we've got. The quantity that we've administered, and who prescribed or administered the medication. And this drop-down list is populated from your current Salisbury Cloud user list. And then record the medication used. We can now see that 2 have been administered, we've subtracted 2, and we now have a running balance of 23. We also have a returns option. This allows you to just record any returns that you are sending back to supplier as a separate return. If you are destroying medication or drugs, you can record who destroyed it, who witnessed it, the quantity destroyed, and the reason for destruction. Again, we can now see -2. This has been a destroy. If we click on view, we'll also be able to see our notes. So who destroyed it, who witnessed it, and what the reason was. And the same for return. We'll be able to see our notes down here. Move allows you to move medicines from one register to another register. This is particularly useful for when you have a register for your stockroom or your drug safe. You have a register for an ambulance vehicle or a drugs bag, and you can move a quantity from one to the other. That will allow you to do it within here. I only have one register created at the moment, so I don't have another one to move it to. And then finally, we have balance check. So we can see we have a running balance here of 18. So we pop in 18, we've counted 18. we actually have 18 in the drug safe. Brilliant. It's showing us a 0 because we've not changed anything, and it's just confirming that we've got a running balance of 18 with a balance check. If we go in and we enter 17, for example, it's telling us it's picked up an issue. It's expecting 18, and we're only counting 17. There's one missing. And let's say, for example, it turns out that a member of staff just disposed of it because it was out of date. You can put a reason in. Member of staff disposed of as out of date. You want to confirm what your new balance what your new balance to be. You can put any number in here that you want. It will update. That will update your final balance to be that. You can then click record discrepancy, and it's now put in 2 additional rows. We've got a -1 for discrepancy to bring it down to 17, and then the balance check, just to show that we've done a balance check. Again, looking at the view, we can then see the note, why we've got the discrepancy there. And then we can view the balance check is now at 17. So if we go back to products, and we go back to our storeroom, we can now see that we have 17 in our location. One thing just to be mindful of is the expiry information. The numbers will slightly differ. As you can see, we have 25. There's only 17 actually in stock. It's to do with the way the database works in the background. It's difficult to track the movements and the discrepancies with the expiry dates. So it's not going to give you a true value. I mean, as with the expiry information, as you can see, if you hover over it, it's a rough idea of what you could have. It's not the expiry information has never been kind of it will always be 100% accurate. It's there to kind of give you an idea that on this date, you may have this product with this batch number that may be coming up for expiry, to allow you to go and check, just to give you a prompt rather than relying on having to manually go and check everything all the time. We are going to be looking at future developments around whether we can change this to be a bit more responsive. It is going to require reconfiguring our database. So that's something that will be looked at some point in the future. And then one other thing to be aware of is when entering your medicines quantity, we recommend that you enter these as individual tablets or ampule quantities and not number of boxes. So you don't want to enter 1 box of paracetamol that might have sort of 16 tablets in it. That's going to cause issues when you come to sort of record your administration to your patients or your disposals. You know, you will not be able to, you're not going to be able to record that you've issued 2 tablets out of a box of 16. So your balance needs to be numbers of tablets and ampules, not total in the box or a pack, if that makes sense. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how you can set up and create your controlled drug registers. This has been aimed at sort of controlled drugs. You can use it for any kind of medication, you know, paracetamol, ibuprofen, aspirin. That's not a problem. If you don't want to use this for that, then you can carry on using it as you are through the stock management. That's absolutely fine. So it can work in both ways. As I've shown, the stock manager, the controlled drugs register, sorry, does link in with the stock manager module. So I hope you found this useful. Any questions or problems, feel free to reach out by emailing support@salus3.co.uk. Thank you.